Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to discuss about adrenal glands, anatomy and physiology of adrenal glands. Introduction: Adrenal gland have two layers. One is superficial is cortex, and inner one is the medulla. The gland consists of superficial cortex, and inner one is medulla. The adrenal cortex and the medulla are the two embryological and functionally distinct units. The cortex is derived from the mesoderm, and the medulla is derived from the neuroectoderm. See the cortex. Cortex means the superficial layer. It is arises from the mesoderm, and the medulla. It is the inner layer. It is derived from the neuroectoderm, neural crystals. See, the superficial is cortex and inner one is deeper. The super one is derived from the mesoderm, and the inner deeper medulla is derived from the neuroectoderm cells. See, this is the picture is showing the kidney. The above one kidney, above one is the adrenal gland. The second picture is showing that the outer brown color is capsule. The inner one is the cortex is, the outer layer is cortex, and the inner one is the medulla and the blood vessels. See anatomy. The paid it is a paid organs and it is a retroperitoneal and related to the upper pole of the kidney. Contained with it is two shapes. Right adrenal is shaped in triangular in shape. Left adrenal is crescent shape. See the right adrenal is triangular in shape and the left adrenal is crescent shaped. Gross examination. The cortex is pigmented mustard yellow color and the medulla is brown color. The cortex is mustard yellow color and the medulla, the inner one is brown color. The weight is 4 to 5 grams each gland, and the size is length is 4 to 6 centimeters, width is 2 to 3 centimeters. See, it is a paid organ. It is a retroperitoneal. It is situated in the upper pole of the kidney, and it is a right adrenal is in triangular in shape, and the left adrenal is crescent shaped. The gross examination, the cortex, the outer layer is mustard yellow color, and the medulla is brown color. The weight is 4 to 5 grams of each gland, and the length is 4 to 6 centimeters, width is 2 to 3 centimeters. See, the picture is showing that the each adrenal gland, it is weight 4 to 6 grams. See, here the cross section of the adrenal reveals the golden yellow of the cortex, and inner is gray medulla. See, golden yellow of the cortex, and inner one is gray medulla. Relations. How it's situated, the anatomical relation to the adrenal gland. They are located in the 11th to 12th rib. The right adrenal lies more careful than left. It is situated in the gyrotous fascia, 11th to 12th rib. It is the right adrenal gland. It is bounded by anteriorly and above. It is called liver, and posteriorly, anteriorly liver, and posteriorly diaphragm, and superiorly diaphragm, and inferior laterally right kidney, and medially inferior vena cava. See, anteriorly, if it is a adrenal gland, it is anteriorly it is a liver, and posteriorly backside it is a diaphragm, and superiorly it is a diaphragm, and infralaterally the gland is situated infralaterally it is kidney, and medially inferior vena cava. See, now coming to the left anteriorly, in front of the left, see the left one, anteriorly stomach, pancreas, of body of the pancreas, and splenic vessels, and posteriorly diaphragm, and superiorly spleen. There the superiorly is diaphragm. Here it is the spleen, and inferiorly kidney, and medially aorta. There it is the inferior vena cava. See, once again the boundaries, anteriorly for right adrenal gland, anteriorly liver, and posteriorly diaphragm, superiorly diaphragm, infralaterally right kidney, and medially inferior vena cava. For left one, and the superiorly anteriorly stomach, body of the pancreas, and splenic vessels, and posteriorly diaphragm, and superiorly spleen, inferiorly kidney, and medially aorta. These are the boundaries of the left adrenal gland. And arterial supply receives blood at the rate of 7 cc per gram per minute. And the three arteries, superior adrenal artery, middle adrenal artery, and inferior adrenal artery. The superior adrenal artery is a branch of inferior phrenic artery, and medial adrenal artery, middle adrenal artery is a branch of aorta, and the inferior adrenal artery. These are the arterial supply, superior, middle, and inferior. And the venous drainage. See, this is the important point. Right adrenal vein, directly it is open into the inferior vena cava. It is short. See the right side, it is directly opens into the inferior vena cava. It is short. And left adrenal vein, long as compared to the right adrenal vein, joined inferior phrenic vein prior to draining into the left renal vein. See the right one, it is directly opened into the inferior vena cava. And the left one, it will open the left renal vein. The right one is short and compared to the right one, left one is the long. That is right one is open into directly into the inferior vena cava. Here it is the left renal vein. The nerve supply, it is two types, sympathetic and parasympathetic. The lymphatics, right adrenal, paracaval lymph nodes and left adrenal para-aortic lymph nodes. Right adrenal, it is related to the paracaval lymph nodes and left adrenal para-aortic lymph nodes. See here there is a three layers of adrenal gland. One is zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, and zona reticularis. See three layers. One is three parts: zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, and zona reticularis. Zona of glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, and zona reticularis. See the zona glomerulosa is released the mineralocorticoids, and fasciculata it is released the glucocorticoids, and reticularis it releases the androgens. See, zona glomerulosa, it is released the mineralocorticoids, and fasciculata, it is released of glucocorticoids, and reticularis, it is androgens. Here the anatomy is over. Adrenal cortical tumors. These are usually adenomas. Any tumor measuring 6 centimeters are more likely to be malignant. See, any tumor 6 centimeters are more likely, or more than that, it's likely to be that malignant or have high risk turning into the malignancy. So it's required surgical resection. See, any tumor, it's more than 6 centimeters or more, 6 centimeters or more, it is likely to be malignant or high potential to turn into the malignancy. It is a treatment is surgically resection. Then adenocarcinoma is the most common adrenal cortical malignancy. Adenocarcinoma, it is the it is a commonest adrenal cortical malignancy. Cortical tumors may be functioning or non-functioning. Functioning tumor secretes the mineralocorticoids, glucocorticoids, sex hormones, or combination of this. See, it is two types: functioning or non-functioning. Functioning, what it will release? Mineralocorticoids, glucocorticoids, and sex hormones. It is the adenocarcinoma is the most commonly, and if the 6 centimeters or more, it's most common to malignant or highly turn into a malignancy. It is two types: functioning and non-functioning. Functioning is related to the mineralocorticoids, glucocorticoids, and sex hormones. What are the investigations? Investigations: USG abdomen, ultrasound of the abdomen, and CT abdomen, and hormone evaluation. And the treatment is adrenalectomy. Mostly will go for the lab. See, adenocortical tumors, it is usually adenomas. Most commonly, it is a adenocarcinoma, and it is a 6 centimeters or more than that. It to be likely malignant, or most chance of turn into a malignancy. Then it is two types: functional and non-functional. Functioning tumors release the mineralocorticoids, glucocorticoids, and sex hormones. Investigations: USG abdomen, CT, and hormone evaluation. Treatment is adrenalectomy. Next, incidentaloma. What is incidentaloma? It is a incidental finding. It is an incidentaloma is a adrenal mass detected incidentally by imaging the studies conduct for the other reasons, not known previously to have been present as a causing symptoms. See, incidentaloma you will find incidentally. For we will took scans for another reasons, but incidentally we will find the tumor. That is called incidentaloma mass. Incidence. It is a prevalence of the adenomasis. Autopsy studies ranges 1.4% to 8.7% and increase with the age. See, in this incidentalomas, 82% are non-functioning adenomas. This is very important for you. 82% are non-functioning tumors. It will ask in the need bits also. See, 82% are non-functioning and 5% are Cushing tumors, Cushing syndrome, and 5% of pheochromocytoma and 2% of metastasis and 5% of adenocortical carcinoma and aldosterone producing adenomas at 1%. What are the 5%? Cushing's, pheochromocytoma and adenocortical carcinomas. These are 5% and metastasis is 2%. Then aldosterone producing adenomas are 1% and 82% are the non-functioning. These are the incidents. Most common type is non-functioning and it is 82%. The diagnosis. What are the diagnoses? When incidentoma is identified, a complete histology and the clinical examination is required. Morning and midnight plasma cortisol measurements, 1 milligram overnight dexamethasone suppression test, and 24 hours urine cortisol excretion and 12 to 24 hours urine excretion of metanephrines or plasma-free metanephrines. The incidental for complete history and examination and morning and midnight plasma cortisol measurements, 1 milligram overnight dexamethasone suppression test and 24 urinary cortisol secretion. Serum potassium, plasma aldosterone and plasma renin activity and CT and MRI is performed for all adrenal mass incidentalomas. Adrenal gland biopsy. Never biopsy. When we will do? Before doing the biopsy, it will do in the CT guided FNAC. Before doing that, we have to rule out the whether the pheochromocytoma is there or not. Before, after ruling the pheochromocytoma only, you have to go for biopsy of the adrenal gland. When you will go for biopsy, you will suspect the metastasis, any secondaries, metastasis to the adrenal gland. That time only you will go for the biopsy. After complete hormone evaluation, pheochromocytoma, and then you are going to suspect the metastasis. That time only you have to go for the adrenal gland biopsy. That too you will go for the under guidance of CT. See, never biopsy an adrenal masses until pheochromocyte has been biochemically excluded. Then indication is suspect of any adrenal gland metastasis. These are the indication. Any if you have suspect any adrenal gland metastasis. Then before going for biopsy, you have to rule out the whether the pheochromocytoma is there or not. In the treatment is two types. One is surgical, one another one is medical. The non-functioning adrenal gland tumors, whether it is the 5 centimeters or more than that, increase in size, and the smaller tumor that increase in size over time should undergo the surgical resection. It is a more than 5 centimeters and increase in the size, that we will go for the surgical resection. Okay, and the tumor size 3 to 5 centimeters, we will go for the surgical resection. What are the indications if the 3 to 5 centimeters is there, and what are the indications? Indications, one is suspicious lesions of malignancy. If you suspect any malignancy or in young patients, and few surgical risks and interval tumor growth. And we will wait for the whether we will wait for that. Then if the tumor is growing, then we will go for the surgical resection. If it is more than 5 centimeters and increasing the size, we will go for the surgical resection. And 3 to 5 centimeters, what are the indication for the surgeries? One is suspicious of malignancy, and second one is young patients, and third one is few surgical risks, and the fourth one is interval tumor growth. These are the indication for the 3 to 5 centimeters tumor when you are going to surgery. In the non-functioning tumors smaller than 3 centimeters, we will not go for any surgical resection. We will go for follow-up 6 and 12 and 24 months by imaging, MRI and hormonal evaluation. See, if it is a less than 3 centimeters and non-functioning, we will wait and we will ask the patient to follow up, regular follow-up 6 month, 12 months and 24 months with MRI and hormonal evaluation to rule out the any increase in the size, any hormonal imbalance, that we will go for the surgery. If increase the size, we will go for the surgery. Otherwise, we will leave it. If the tumor remains non-functioning and stable in size, surveillance and to be continued. See, if it is more than 5 centimeters, we will go for the surgery or any suspicion of malignancy. If it is 3 to 5 centimeters, we will go for the surgery. What are the indications for the surgery? If the young patient, any suspicion of malignancy, young patient, the second one is young patient, and any tumor growth and few surgical risks. And then that less than 3 centimeters, non-functioning, and the we will go for the follow-up. It is the 6 months, 12 months, and 24 months. The incidentoma is over. See, incidentoma is incidental finding. Non-functioning is most common type. It is 82%. 18 I told you. And then we will come for the Cushing syndrome. Definition: hypersexual secretion of the cortisol caused by the endogenous production of corticosteroids is known as Cushing syndrome. It is two types. Whether it is a ACTH dependent or independent. See, hypersecretion of cortisol caused by the endogenous production of corticosteroids is known as Cushing syndrome. Whether it is two types, it is a ACTH dependent or independent. The most common cause is 85% ACTH dependent, 15% is ACTH independent, and ACTH dependent is 85%. Dependent Cushing syndrome. Cushing syndromes is Cushing disease result of pituitary adenomas and secrete the excessive amount of ACTH. See, 85% is ACTH dependent. Two types, independent and dependent. Dependent is 85%. Causes for the Cushing syndrome: a benign tumor of adrenal gland, a benign tumor of pituitary gland, and a benign tumor of lung or other organs, extensive use of cortisone medication and administration of ACTH or corticosteroids, primary hyperplasia of both adrenal glands, excessive secretion of adrenal androgen, and exogenous glucocorticoids administration. These are the causes. And what are the clinical features? Clinical features of the Cushing syndrome. One is weight gain and central obesity. See, patient having first picture is showing that thickening of face and weight gain and acne. See, thickening of face, weight gain and acne. The second picture is showing that central obesity, ecchymosis and fragile skin. See, weight gain and central obesity. The second picture is showing that central obesity. Then diabetes, hirsutism, then hypertension, skin changes, muscle weakness, menstrual irregularity, and in male it is impotence, and depression and mania, osteoporosis and hypokalemia. What are the clinical features? Weight gain and central obesity, diabetes, hirsutism and hypertension, skin changes, muscle weakness, menstrual irregularity in male, impotency, depression and mania, osteoporosis, hypokalemia. These are the clinical features for Cushing syndrome. And diagnostic evaluation, what are the clinical diagnostic findings? History collection and physical examination, and CT, abdomen and USG ultrasound, and a radio immune assay for plasma ACTH, and corticotrophin releasing factor, dexamethasone suppression test, blood samples, and X-ray of the skull, and reduce the eosinophils levels and excessive plasma cortisol levels. The treatment: medical therapy with metformin and ketoconazole reduce the steroid synthesis and secretion, and can be used to prepare the patient with severe hypocortisolism preoperatively or if surgery is not possible. ACTH producing pituitary tumors are treated by transsphenoidal resection or radiotherapy. If an ectopic ACTH sources is isolated, resection will correct the hypercortisolism. So treatment: if it is a pituitary tumors are treated by transsphenoidal resection or radiotherapy. If an ectopic ACTH sources is localized, resection will correct the hypercortisolism. This is a medical treatment and a surgical treatment. A unilateral adenoma is treated by the adrenalectomy. Most will go for the LAP. In case of it is bilateral ACTH independent disease, bilateral adrenalectomy is the primary treatment. And subclinical Cushing syndrome caused by unilateral adenoma can be treated by unilateral adrenalectomy. So bilateral adrenalectomy. If it's unilateral, you will go for the unilateral adrenalectomy. If you will go for any test, you will go for lap adrenalectomy. If you suspicious of any malignancy, then you will go for the open. Con's syndrome, it is a primary hyperaldosteronism which excessive secretion of aldosterone from the adrenal glands associated with suppression of plasma renin activity. Aldosterone secretion is related to angiotensin 1 and 2 and the plasma renin with angiotensin converting enzyme causes aldosterone producing adenocortical adenoma is 65% and idiopathic is 30%. Aldosterone producing adenocortical adenoma is 65% and idiopathic it is 30%. What are the features? Hypertension and hypokalemia, hypernatremia or normal sodium and metabolic alkalosis. If primary hyperaldosteronism and hypertension is of early onset, which is difficult to control and it with hypokalemia. Hypertension, hypokalemia and metabolic acidosis. And diagnosis. Hypokalemia increases the urinary potassium excretion and PAC, elevated plasma aldosterone concentration and suppressed plasma renin activity and confirmed by the rest by the oral or IV solvent. Here the gold standard to differentiate the unilateral versus bilateral aldosterone is selective adrenal venous sampling. Selective adrenal venous sampling is a gold standard test. It is the university entrance exam bit also. This is the PG entrance examination bit. What is the gold standard in Cushing syndrome when Con's syndrome? It is selective adrenal venous sampling and CECT abdomen. Hypokalemia increases urinary potassium excretion and PAC and PRA. It is a plasma renin activity and gold standard is adrenal venous sampling. Treatment, if it is adenoma, unilateral adrenalectomy, idiopathic hypocortisolism, medical treatment with spironolactone. Adenoma unilateral adrenalectomy and idiopathic hyperaldosteronism, medical treatment with spironolactone. And that one Con's syndrome is over. Then we will come from the neuroblastoma. Neuroblastoma, it is the most commonest childhood tumor and it is the tumor of adrenal medulla, an aggressive malignant tumor in children usually below the age of 5 years. It is the commonest childhood tumor, neuroblastoma, the tumor of the adrenal medulla. It is an aggressive malignant tumor in childhood below the age of 5 years and the incidence is equal in both sexes. It shows that the reddish gray tumor gets invaded early into the kidney, pancreas and adjacent tissues. Can also cause a distant spread to liver, bones and orbit. It can occur. Here the neuroblastoma in orbit, it is the raccoon sign. If it can occur anywhere in the sympathetic chain, but common in the adrenal gland. The most common intra-abdominal malignancy in children is neuroblastoma. This is also PG entrance bit. The most common intra-abdominal malignancy of the children. It is a neuroblastoma. It is below than 5 years. And it is a reddish gray tumor, get invaded early into the kidney, pancreas and adjacent tissues. It is occur in the sympathetic chain. The most common it is most common in the adrenal gland and second most common the vertebral column and third most common in the pelvis and fourth is cervical region. See the first neuroblastoma, it is occurs anywhere in the sympathetic chain but common in adrenal gland. The most common site of adrenal gland is 40% and second is vertebral column and third one is pelvis and the fourth one is cervical region. This is the order of the neuroblastomas in the sympathetic chain. The first one is eternal, and second one is pelvis. Second one is vertebral column, and third one is pelvis, and the fourth one is cervical region. The most intra-abdominal tumor in the children is malignancy is neuroblastoma. This is the university entrance bill. And two types. One is Pepper type, and the second one is Hutchinson's type. And the staging of neuroblastoma, stage 1, it is a localized tumor with gross complete excision. Same stage 1, it is a localized tumor with gross complete excision. Same side representative nodes are negative on microscopy. And stage 2A and 2B, 2A, it is a localized tumor with incomplete gross excision. There it is a complete excision. Here it is an incomplete excision. The samples of the node is microscopically negative. And 2B, it is a localized tumor with or without complete gross excision. Same side non-hereditary representative nodes are positive, but contralateral nodes are negative. See, in the both two conditions, the nodes are negative. Here, the same side it is positive and the contralateral side is negative. And that's 3. It is an unresectable unilateral tumor infiltrating from midline and localized tumor with opposite side of node spread. And bilateral nodal spread, midline tumor with bilateral infiltration. And 4. Any primary tumor with spread of two distant nodes, bone and bone marrow, liver, skin and other organs. That is the stage 4. And stage 4S, it is a localized primary tumor with spread to the skin, liver and bone marrow, limited to the infants younger than the 1 year. See, it is a stage 1, it is a localized complete excision, nodes are negative. And stage 2A, stage 2B, it is a incomplete gross section excision, here the nodes are negative. And at 2B, it is a complete or incomplete. Here it is the adherent nodes. It is the same side, it is a positive, and contralateral side, it is a negative. The stage 3, unresectable unilateral tumor infiltrating across the midline and localized tumor with opposite side nodes are spread and bilateral nodal spread and midline tumors with bilateral infiltration. Stage 4, any primary tumor with spread of distant nodes, bone and bone marrow, liver, skin and other organs. And 4S, it is a localized primary tumor with spread to the skin, liver and bone marrow. That is the staging. Here the clinical features, the child present with a huge mass per abdomen, neuroblastoma, and in the loin, which is non-mobile because it is a retroperitoneal organ. It is in the loin, which is non-mobile and not moving with respiration because it is due to the retroperitoneal. It's not moving with the respiration. Nobile surface, nodular, and the cross is the midline. And dancing eye syndrome, raccoon's eyes sign. It's the infraorbital ecchymosis due to the secondaries in the retroorbital region. It's common in the head injuries also. Raccoon eye sign, dancing eye syndrome. And the tumor in the abdomen, it is a mass per abdomen and it is non-mobile and not moving with the respiration. And it is a nodular in surface. And raccoon eye sign, dancing eye syndromes. And hypertension, fever, weight loss, anemia, and flushing due to the catecholamine release and sweating. And diarrhea, hypokalemia due to the release of vasoactive intestinal polypeptide. Other hormones like ACTH are also released. The child presents with a huge mass per abdomen in the loin, which is non-mobile and not moving with the respiration, and nodular surface. It is a nodular. And dancing eye syndrome, raccoon eye syndrome, and hypertension, fever, and weight loss. Hypertension, fever, weight loss, anemia, and flushing sweating is common. Diarrhea, hypokalemia due to the release of vasoactive intestinal polypeptide and other hormones like ACTH. These are the clinical features. And differential diagnosis, Williams tumors, which is mobile. It is non-mobile. It is the smooth surface. Here it is a nodular surface. Moves with respiration. Does not, the neuroblastoma is not moving with the respiration. It does not cross the midline. It crosses the midline. See, the differential diagnosis, Williams tumor. And it is the smooth surface. Here it is the nodular surface, which is mobile. It is non-mobile, which move with the respiration. It not move with the respiration. It does not cross the midline. This is the differential diagnosis for the neuroblastoma. And what are the diagnosis? And what are the diagnosis? Ultrasound, abdomen, CT, mass abdomen, secondaries in the liver. See ultrasound for the tumor size and where it situates, what is the nodularity and what is the extension. Everything we'll know in the ultrasound. And CT abdomen, what we'll know, any secondaries in the liver and any extension, any lymph nodes are enlarged or not. Everything we'll know by CT. And here MRI is better than CT. MRI is better than CT, ultrasound, CT and MRI. MRI is better than CT. And plain X-ray of the abdomen shows the stippled classification. And urinary VMA and hormonalic acid estimation in 90% of cases. MIBG scan and bone marrow biopsy may be positive in 60% of cases. CT, USG abdomen and MRI, plain X-ray, urinary humulinic acid and MIBG scan and bone marrow aspiration. And bone marrow aspiration. These are the investigations and differential diagnosis. Diagnosis is our next treatment. Adrenalectomy. When it is adrenalectomy, if it is a adrenalectomy, complete surgical excision. In inoperable cases, debulking is a beneficial. See, adrenalectomy, it is a complete surgical excision when it is possible. It is inoperable cases. What we'll do? We'll go for debulking. And chemotherapy is useful in adjuvant therapy. When adjuvant means before going near adjuvant therapy drugs is used for carbamazepine, doxorubicin, cyclophosphamide and etoposide. Rarely spontaneous regression of tumor is known to occur. Low risk groups are treated by surgery and intermediate risk groups are treated by surgery and multi-drug chemotherapy. High risk groups are treated by high dose of multi-drug chemotherapy, later surgery. See, if it is a surgical resection is probably useful. It is adrenalectomy. It is inoperable case. Then we will go for the debulking of beneficial, debulking. Then if it is a chemotherapy, chemotherapy will go give for doxorubicin, cyclophosphamide and etoposide. Rarely spontaneously regression of the tumor is known to occur. And it is a low risk. We'll go for the surgery. Intermediate risk, surgery plus chemotherapy. And high risk, treated by high doses multi-drug chemotherapy and later surgery. This is the treatment. And prognosis, it is a low risk, 3 years of surgery 90% and intermediate risk, it is 70% and high risk groups, it is 30%. See, prognosis, it is a low risk got 3 years survival of 90% and intermediate risk 70% and high risk it is got 30%. This is got Cushing's. Neuroblastoma. Neuroblastoma, it's a common childhood tumor. Most common abdominal tumor in children, it is neuroblastoma. That's important point. And two types, Pepper and Hutchinson's. And stagings, I told you, stage 1, stage 2, 2A, 2B, and 3 and 4. And the clinical features, child present with the mass in the parabdomen and in the loin, which is non-mobile and not moving with respiration. And it is a nodular surface. Nodular surface and crosses in the midline and dancing eye syndrome and raccoon eye sign and hypertension, fever, weight loss, anemia, sweating and flushing. It is a clinical feature, diarrhea, hypokalemia due to release of vasoactive proteins. These are the clinical features. And at the differential diagnosis, Williams tumor, what is the differences? Here it is a non-moving, it is a moving, that one is non-moving with respiration, which is mobile, that one is non-mobile. It is a smooth surface, here it is a nodular surface. And a USG, CT scan, MRI is better than CT and plain X-ray and MIBG scan and bone marrow biopsies. And treatment, if it is a resectable, then we will go for the adrenalectomy. Then it is a inoperable cases, debulking. And in the chemotherapy we will give, and if this is a low risk group, we will go for surgery, and intermediate risk surgery and chemotherapy, and high risk groups treated by high doses chemotherapy, then we will go for the surgery. and pheochromocytoma. The next question, it is also university question. Pheochromocytoma. It is a tumor arising from the chromaffin cells in adrenal medulla, but occasionally can arise from the extraadrenal chromaffin tissues. Most common site of extraadrenal pheochromocytoma organs is Zuckerlens. See, this is the most common site of extraadrenal pheochromocytoma. It's organ of Zuckerland. It is a university entrance exam. But also, it is the last time it is asking the NEET exam also. It is a catecholamine secreting tumor that arises from the chromaffin cells, the sympathetic organ derived from the neural crest representing it potentially curable from hypertension. It is soft brownish gray pink tumor and mainly secretes the non-adrenaline, other its catecholamines, and it may be secretes the calcitonin, ACTH, and vasoactive intestinal polypeptide PTH. After it is difficult to differentiate between the benign and the malignant types, necrosis, hemorrhage, high 67 positive cells, size of tumor, increase the pheochromocytoma and adrenal scales, pheochromocytoma of adrenal glands scale score. Capsule invasion and a vascular invasion, nuclear DNA polyploid, and increased neuron specific levels and the possible features of malignant pheochromocytoma. See, capsule invasion and vascular invasion, nuclear DNA polyploid, and increased neuron-specific necrosis levels are possible features of the malignant pheochromocytoma. And current mutations rate neurofibromatosis 1, VHL syndrome, HDHD, HDHC, and HDHD. Commonly benign. Here the rule of 10. It is very important. The rule of 10 for pheochromocytoma. What is rule of 10? One is 10% of malignant, 10% extraadrenal, and 10% bilateral, and 10% familial, 10% childhood, 10% multiple, and 10% not associated with the hypertension, and 10% calcified. See, this is very important. Rule of 10. Rule of 10. Here it is a rule of 10. 10% is malignant, 10% is extraadrenal, 10% is bilateral, and 10% is familial, and 10% childhood, and 10% multiple, and 10% not associated with the hypertension, and 10% is calcified. And here one triad also present, classical triad for pheochromocytoma. Here three is there. One is headache, and second one is diaphoresis, and third one is palpitations. The classical triad for the pheochromocytoma is one is headache, and second one is palpitations, and third one is diaphoresis. What is diaphoresis? Excessive sweating. Diaphoresis. This is headache, palpitations, and diaphoresis. This is the classical triad for pheochromocytoma. Diaphoresis, headache, and palpitation. This is the classical triad and 10%. Rule of 10. And what are the risk factors? We will divide into risk factors, sporadic and familial, syndromic and non-syndromic. What are the syndromic causes? One is MEN 2A and 2B, VHL syndrome, and von Recklinghausen syndrome. It is neurofibromatosis type 1 and Sturge-Weber syndrome. See, is risk factors for sporadic and familial, and syndromic and non-syndromic. What are the syndromic causes? MEN 2A and 2B, and VHL syndrome, and Sturge-Weber syndrome, and Van Recklinghausen syndrome. Van Recklinghausen syndrome, it is neurofibromatosis type 1. It is the most common in the pheochromocytoma. In pheochromocytoma, the most common syndrome is Van Recklinghausen syndrome. It is a neurofibromatosis type 1. It's the most common type. So in syndromic, MEN 2A, MEN 2B, and VHL syndrome, Van Recklinghausen syndrome, neurofibromatosis type 1, and Sturge-Weber syndrome. It is the most common pheochromocytoma is neurofibromatosis type 1, Van Recklinghausen syndrome. And the clinical features. Clinical manifestations are due to the increased secretions of epinephrine and norepinephrine. Commonest presentation is severely headache, palpitations, dyspnea, weakness, pallor, blurred vision, and other symptoms of overactivity. They may present as persistent or paradoxal hypertension, as an abdominal mass which is non-mobile, smooth, does not move with respiration, crossing the midline. Palpitations may cause fluctuations in the BP. The clinical features. It releases the epinephrine and norepinephrine, and it releases the noradrenaline and noradrenaline. Noradrenaline is the most common noradrenaline. And common symptoms that tried, I told you, headache, palpitation, and dysphoresis. See, severe headache, palpitations, dyspnea, weakness, pallor, blurred vision, and they may present with the persistent or paroxysmal hypertension. It is 90%, and it presents at the abdominal mass, which is not moving with the respiration, and non-mobile, nodular in surface, and crossing the midline. If palpation fluctuate the blood pressure also. These are the clinical features for pheochromocytoma. And encephalopathy, cardiac arrhythmias, and cerebral hemorrhages. Panic attacks of sudden death are known to occur. It may be associated with MEN2A and 2B syndrome. Clinical features are over and differential diagnosis, hyperthyroidism, anxiety status, cardiac conditions, and carcinoid functioning. Investigations. VMA excretion in 24 hours will be more than 7 mg per 24 hours in pheochromocytoma. USG abdomen, intravenous ultrasonography, and CT scan, MRI, measurements of plasma-free metanephrines. Its recommended test of choice for excluding and or confirming the diagnosis of pheochromocytoma, urinary non-meta-adrenaline and catecholamine estimation, arteriography. See, VMA levels, USG abdomen, CT, MRI, and plasma-free metanephrines, and urinary non-meta-adrenaline and arteriography. These are the investigations for the pheochromocytoma. And iodine labelized meta adenogen MIBG scan and plasma metanephrine levels. And treatment is adrenal ectomy. See, pheochromocytoma, it's arising from the chromaffin cells of the adrenal medulla, and it will arise from the extramedullary. What is extramedullary tissue? It is a gland. It is a most common site of extraadrenal pheochromocytoma. And its soft brownish gray pink tumor mainly secretes the noradrenaline and other catecholamines. And rule of 10, it is 10% malignant, 10% of extraadrenal, 10% bilateral, and 10% familial, 10% childhood, and 10% multiple, and not associated with the hypertension, and 10% is calcified. Risk factors we divide into sporadic and familial, syndromic and non-syndromic. Syndromic, it is MEN2A and 2B, VHL syndrome, Steve-Weber syndrome. The most commonly occurring syndromic is Van Rekel-Hussein syndrome. It is neurofibromatosis type 1. And the clinical feature I told you, the classical triad, headache, palpitations, and diaphoresis. It is a common headache, palpitation, dyspnea, weakness, pallor, blurred vision. And already I told you about tumor. And hypertension, encephalopathy, cardiac arrhythmias. Differential diagnosis, hyperthyroidism, and anxiety status, cardiac conditions, and Cushing's, and carcinoids. Investigations, USG, IVU, and CT, VMA levels, MRI, and measurements of plasma-free metanephrines, urinary non-meta-adrenaline, and arteriography, MIBG scan. Treatment is adrenalectomy. Mostly will go for the laparoscopic adrenalectomy. If you suspect any carcinomas, then we will go any metastasis. Then only we will go for the open adrenalectomy. See, before going, I told you last time, if you are going for FNAC, before going FNAC, you have to rule out the pheochromocytoma is present or not. If you are having pheochromocytoma, we will not go for the CT guided FNAC. And these are the topics. And remember, what are the important points? Pheochromocytoma is rarely malignant in men too. And pheochromocytoma under 40 years of age suspect MEN2A and VHL syndrome. Beta blockers is given only after the patient is fully alpha blocked with phenylbenjamin or digoxin. See, before going surgery, we have to control the hypertensive. Alpha blockers is given 4 weeks period to surgery to control the hypertension, and beta blockers also given 1 week before the surgery to control the tachycardia and arrhythmia. Alpha blockers will go given before 4 weeks of surgery, and beta blockers 1 week before surgery. And tumor, this secretes dopamine exclusively has got high malignant chances. 5 years survival for malignant pheochromocytoma is 50%, and it needs and cyclophosphamide. And pheochromocytoma in malignant pregnancy is got 50% of maternity mortality, and vaginal delivery is contraindicated in pregnancy with pheochromocytoma. Retinal vein should be ligate first. Avoid the breach in the capsule of tumor during surgery. Careful handling of the hemodynamic monitoring is must, and sodium nitrogen. Here my topic is over. This is adrenal glands, and if you have any doubts, ask me. You have any doubts? You can ask me.